Have you ever walked into a room and immediately noticed the difference between two types of men? One man moves with an effortless presence. He's not trying to impress anyone, yet people naturally gravitate toward him. Women glance in his direction. His confidence isn't loud, it's felt. He speaks when he wants to, not because he needs to be heard, but because he knows his words carry weight. And then, there's the other guy. He's trying too hard. Maybe it's his forced swagger, his rehearsed jokes, or the way he constantly checks to see if anyone is noticing him. The irony, the more he tries to get attention, the less he gets. It's not about looks, it's not about money, it's not even about charm. It's about how you carry yourself. Because here's something most men never realize. Women, especially younger women, don't just see you. They sense you. They can tell when you're truly comfortable in your own skin, and when you're secretly desperate for validation. And that's where most older men get it wrong. Have you ever had a woman show interest at first, only to suddenly pull away? Have you ever felt like things were going well, and then, out of nowhere, she lost interest? Chances are, you made one of these 7 crucial mistakes, and the worst part, you probably didn't even notice it happening. But here's the good news. The second you understand these mistakes, everything changes. Because attraction isn't about age, it's about energy. And if you're ready to master the kind of presence that makes women drawn to you effortlessly, let's get started. Mistake 1. Trying to act young instead of owning your age. Nothing makes a younger woman lose interest faster than an older man desperately clinging to his youth. You know the type. He's in his 40s or 50s, but he's trying to blend in with guys half his age. He forces himself into conversations about TikTok trends, throws in slang like "no cap" or "vibes" in all the wrong places, and wears sneakers designed for 22-year-olds chasing viral fashion. It's painful to watch. Here's the hard truth. You're not 25 anymore, and that's a good thing. Because here's what most men don't realize. Youth is not your selling point. Women aren't attracted to older men because they want a knockoff version of a younger guy. If they wanted that, they'd just date someone their own age, someone who actually grew up in the TikTok era, not someone awkwardly forcing himself into it. What they're drawn to is what younger men can't give them. Stability, wisdom, emotional depth, a sense of, I know exactly who I am. And yet, the second you start mimicking youth, you lose the very thing that makes you attractive in the first place. Think about it. When you see a guy in his 50s desperately trying to look and act like he's in his 20s, does he come across as confident, masculine, desirable? Or does he just look lost, like someone desperately trying to hold on to something that's already gone? The most desirable older men, George Clooney, Idris Elba, Sean Connery, didn't chase youth. They owned their age. They perfected their presence. They weren't trying to be young, they were being better. That's the key. Stop chasing trends. Master timeless style. You don't need to force yourself into the world of 20-somethings. Instead, build your own world, and let younger people be drawn to you, naturally. Because at the end of the day, younger women don't want a man who's still figuring himself out. They want a man who already knows exactly who he is. Mistake 2. Thinking money alone makes you attractive. Let's be honest, money is attractive. It signals success, capability, and stability. It shows that you've built something, that you have the means to provide, that you've figured out life in ways that younger men haven't. But the second you flaunt it, bragging about your Porsche, name-dropping expensive restaurants, flashing your Rolex, you turn it into a repellent. Because here's a secret most men never understand: women don't dislike money. They dislike men who think money is the only thing they bring to the table. Money isn't the endgame, it's the byproduct. There's a difference between being a man with wealth and being a man who hides behind wealth. And trust me, women can smell the difference from a mile away. Imagine this. A man in his late 40s takes a younger woman out on a date. Within 10 minutes, he's talking about how much his car costs, his 6-figure salary, his VIP connections. She nods, she smiles, she might even say, "Wow, that's impressive." But inside, she's already pulling away. Not because she dislikes success, but because she doesn't see a confident man, she sees a man screaming for validation. A truly successful man doesn't have to prove it. He doesn't need to talk about his wealth, because his presence, his lifestyle, and his self-assurance already say it all. The problem with leading with money. When a man makes money his personality, women start wondering. If he stripped away his wealth, what's left? Is he just trying to buy my attention? Does he think money replaces personality? And here's the harsh reality: if a woman is only with you because of your money, she was never really with you to begin with. A rich man who needs you to know he's rich. He's poorer than he realizes. What truly makes you attractive? It's not about the numbers in your bank account. It's about what kind of man you are with or without it. Are you a man of substance? Do you have a purpose beyond material things? Can you hold a conversation that doesn't revolve around what you own? The men who truly captivate younger women aren't the ones buying their way in. They're the ones who command attention simply by being themselves. So, next time you're tempted to flex your wealth, pause. Instead of talking about what you have, show them who you are. Because at the end of the day, the man who doesn't need to prove his worth, never has to. Mistake 3. Complaining about modern women like it's a personality trait. Nothing makes a younger woman lose interest faster than bitterness. You've seen the guy. He sits at the bar, arms crossed, drink in hand, shaking his head at the world. Women today are entitled. Dating isn't what it used to be. Social media has ruined everything. He thinks he sounds wise, like a man who's figured it all out. But in reality, he just sounds defeated. Because here's the brutal truth: complaining about the state of women today won't change anything. If anything, it just makes you look powerless. What she hears when you complain. When a man constantly complains about modern dating, a woman doesn't hear a man with high standards, she hears a man who 1. Feels powerless in the dating world. If I can't win, I'll just blame the game. 2. Carries unresolved resentment. I'm still mad about the ones who left me. 3. Doesn't adapt, just blames, instead of evolving. I'll just sit here and be angry. And nothing is less attractive than a man who blames the world instead of figuring out how to thrive in it. Why complaining kills attraction. Think about the men women are actually drawn to. Do they sit around whining about how things used to be? Do they rant about how women don't appreciate men anymore? Or do they simply live their lives with confidence, purpose, and direction? Because here's a secret. The men who win in dating today aren't the ones who complain about the rules. They're the ones who learn how to play the game better. They focus on self-mastery. They build the kind of life that women want to be a part of. They command respect, rather than demand it. And because of that, they don't need to chase. Women choose them. Be the exception, not the complainer. Look, the world has changed, that's a fact. You can fight it, you can resist it, you can sit around swapping war stories with other bitter men about how women today just don't appreciate a good man. Or you can be the exception. Instead of whining about how dating has changed, be the kind of man who doesn't have to chase. Because when you stop complaining and start becoming the man you were meant to be, Everything changes. Mistake 4. Being overly possessive. There's a saying, the tighter you hold on, the faster it slips away. And nowhere is this truer than in relationships. A confident man makes a woman feel wanted. A possessive man makes her feel trapped. At first, it seems harmless. It even seems caring. Text me when you get there. Who are you going out with? But then, something shifts. Care turns into control. Suddenly, it's, why didn't you answer my call immediately? I don't like you hanging out with those friends. I don't trust guys around you. And just like that, what started as attraction turns into suffocation. Because here's the brutal truth. The moment a woman feels caged, she's already planning her escape. She won't argue, she won't protest. But she will start pulling away. She'll laugh a little less. She'll start making excuses. She'll stop sharing things with you. Because no woman, especially a younger woman, wants to feel owned. Why older men fall into this trap? Men aren't naturally controlling, but life teaches some men to become this way. By the time a man reaches his 40s or 50s, he's probably experienced a brutal breakup where he was blindsided. A woman leaving him for someone younger, wealthier, or better. The growing fear that he's not as competitive as he once was. And when that happens, insecurity creeps in. Instead of trusting that he's enough, he starts guarding his woman like a possession. He thinks, if I keep an eye on her, she won't cheat. If I check her phone, I'll always know the truth. If I control her world, she won't leave. But here's what he doesn't realize. He's killing attraction faster than anything else. Because control doesn't make a woman stay. It makes her run. What real confidence looks like. A secure man knows. If she truly wants to be with you, she will be, no force necessary. The moment you have to keep someone, you've already lost them. Trusting someone isn't about blind faith, it's about knowing your own worth. How to keep a woman drawn to you, without controlling her. Instead of checking her phone, right pointing arrow, focus on being so magnetic that she never wants to look elsewhere. Making rules about who she can see, right pointing arrow, become the kind of man she wants to be around. Demanding reassurance, right pointing arrow, be a man who is secure enough to trust her. Because here's the truth. A confident man doesn't lock down a woman. He makes her want to stay, because she wouldn't dream of being anywhere else. Mistake 5. Talking down to her. One of the biggest mistakes older men make. They stop being attractive, and start being condescending. At first, they don't even realize they're doing it. It starts with small things, correcting her pronunciation, telling her she doesn't really get how the world works yet, or chuckling when she shares her opinions, as if to say, that's cute, but let me tell you how things really are. And guess what? Nothing kills attraction faster. Because here's the reality. She's not dating you to be schooled. A woman wants a partner, not a professor. She wants to learn and grow alongside you, not feel like she's being graded on her intelligence. Yet, many older men, without even realizing it, assume that because they have more life experience, they have the right to constantly correct her. Explain things as if she couldn't possibly understand them herself. Make her feel like her ideas are naive or insignificant. And while they think they're being helpful, what they're actually doing is draining the relationship of all attraction. Here's what she really hears when you talk down to her. You're not smart enough to figure this out on your own. Your thoughts aren't as valid as mine. I don't respect your intelligence. And no woman, no matter how young or inexperienced, wants to feel that way. The difference between two types of men. There are only two kinds of older men in a younger woman's eyes. The man who makes her feel stupid. The man who makes her feel inspired. Which one do you think she's drawn to? Because here's the secret. The best men don't use their experience to belittle a woman. They use it to lift her up. The right way to share your experience. If you truly believe your life experience is valuable, and it is, then share it like a mentor, not a professor. Instead of saying, "You don't understand how the real world works." Try, "That's an interesting take. I remember thinking that way once too. Here's what I learned along the way." Instead of saying, "You'll get it when you're older." Try, "I used to see it that way too. Over time, I realized this." Instead of making her feel small, make her feel curious. Instead of making her feel naive, make her feel empowered. Because at the end of the day, women aren't looking for a teacher. They're looking for a man who values their mind as much as their presence, and who makes them feel like their voice matters just as much as his. Mistake 6. Letting yourself go. Attraction is visual. You can be the most intelligent, successful, and charismatic man in the room, but if you look like you stop trying, you're already at a disadvantage. Because here's the truth. Women love older men. But they hate men who look like they've given up on themselves. How women actually see you. When a woman looks at a man, she doesn't just see the clothes he's wearing or the shape he's in. She sees a reflection of his mindset. She's thinking, does he respect himself? Does he have discipline? If he puts this little effort into himself, how much effort will he put into me? Because whether you realize it or not, your appearance sends a message. A man who lets himself go is signaling, I don't care anymore. I have nothing left to prove. I've stopped growing, and I've stopped trying. And that's the biggest turnoff of all. Why older men fall into this trap. For many men, this happens slowly, so slowly they don't even notice it. Maybe they were in a long-term relationship or marriage where they felt like they didn't have to try anymore. Maybe they've built a successful career and think their status is enough. Maybe they've just gotten comfortable, telling themselves, looks don't matter at my age. But here's the thing, they do. Because a man who respects himself doesn't let himself decline. A man who wants to stay competitive in life keeps himself sharp. And no, it's not about trying to look like a 25-year-old. It's about showing the world, and yourself, that you still have the same fire, the same drive, and the same self-respect that made you great in the first place. The difference between old and distinguished. Women don't mind older men. In fact, many prefer them. But here's the distinction. A man who has aged but still takes care of himself. Attractive. A man who has aged and looks like he's given up. Forgettable. Think of George Clooney, Idris Elba, Pierce Brosnan. These men aren't young, but they own their age. They dress well, they carry themselves with confidence, and they make sure they still look like men who respect themselves. That's why women still find them desirable. What letting yourself go actually looks like. You don't have to be overweight, bald, or wrinkled to look like you've stopped trying. Sometimes, it's the small things. Wearing outdated, ill-fitting clothes that don't suit your body. Ignoring grooming, messy hair, unkempt facial hair, or bad hygiene. Carrying yourself like you're exhausted by life. Looking like you don't care whether you leave an impression or not. And none of these things are about age. They're about effort. How to fix it, and stand out instantly. Women don't expect you to look like a model. But they do expect you to carry yourself like a man who gives a damn. Wear clothes that fit your body today, not what fit you 15 years ago. Invest in timeless style. neutral colors, well-fitted pieces, and high-quality fabrics. Take care of your grooming, clean-shaven or well-maintained facial hair. Fresh haircut, good hygiene. Stand with confidence, because posture alone makes you look 10x more attractive. Move with purpose, don't shuffle through life. Walk like you own the room. Because here's what happens when a woman sees a man who clearly takes care of himself. She doesn't just think, he looks good. She thinks, if this is how well he treats himself, imagine how well he'll treat me. And that's what makes her drawn to you. Mistake 7. Acting like you know everything. If there's one thing that instantly kills attraction, it's this: a man who thinks he has all the answers. Women don't want a professor. They want a partner, someone who listens, engages, and challenges them without dismissing them. Yet, too many older men, without even realizing it, turn every conversation into a lecture. Maybe you've seen it happen. Maybe you've done it yourself. She shares something she's excited about, a new book, an interesting idea, or something she's learning. And instead of responding with curiosity or enthusiasm, the man immediately corrects her. Actually, that's not quite how it works. You'll understand when you're older. Let me explain it to you the right way. And just like that, the moment dies. She doesn't argue. She doesn't fight back. She just loses interest. Because nothing is less attractive than a man who dismisses a woman's thoughts like they don't matter. Why older men fall into this trap? A lot of men think that because they have more life experience, that makes them the authority in every conversation. They assume their way of thinking is the correct way. If she has a different perspective, it's because she hasn't lived enough yet. It's their job to educate her. But here's the thing, no one likes to feel talked down to. You might think you're being helpful. You might think you're teaching her something valuable. But to her, it doesn't feel like wisdom. It feels like condescension. And no woman wants to date a man who makes her feel stupid. The difference between two types of men. At the end of the day, there are only two kinds of older men in a younger woman's eyes. The man who makes her feel small. The man who makes her feel inspired. Which one do you think she's drawn to? Because here's what most men get wrong. The best men aren't the ones who know everything. They're the ones who never stop learning. The right way to share your experience. Your life experience is valuable, but it only adds to your attraction if you know how to share it correctly. Instead of saying, "You don't understand how the real world works." Try, "That's an interesting take. I remember thinking that way once too. Here's what I learned along the way." Instead of saying, "You'll get it when you're older." Try, "I used to see it that way too. Over time, I realized this." Instead of shutting her down, engage her in the conversation. Instead of trying to be the teacher, try being the man who listens, the man who grows, the man who evolves. Because at the end of the day, women don't want a walking lecture. They want a man who respects their thoughts just as much as his own. The secret to lasting attraction. Attraction isn't about age. It's about presence. It's about self-respect. It's about knowing exactly who you are, and never apologizing for it. Because here's the truth most men never understand. Women don't fall for a number, they fall for a man who owns himself completely. They're drawn to the man who doesn't chase youth, but masters maturity. The man who doesn't need to prove himself, because his presence speaks louder than words. The man who isn't looking for validation, because he already knows his worth. So if you want to stand out, stop trying to be young. Start being the man you were always meant to be. Because the moment you stop chasing validation and start embodying confidence. The moment you stop playing the game and start leading the room. That's when everything changes. Now, let me ask you something. Which of these mistakes have you seen men make the most? Or maybe even made yourself? Drop a comment below. I want to hear your thoughts. And if you found this valuable, hit that subscribe button, because we're just getting started. Because the right knowledge changes everything.